Hey everyone and welcome. So if you're deep in your CISSP studies, you've probably hit that wall of acronyms. SAML, OAuth, OIDC, and it feels like you're trying to make sense of alphabet soup, right? Well, don't worry, you are definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to break all of this down piece by piece so you can walk into that exam feeling totally confident. Okay, let's just get right into it. The biggest point of confusion for pretty much everyone is what is the actual difference between these things, and when on earth would I use one over the other? And you know what? That's not just some trivia question, it's exactly the kind of thing the CISSP exam loves to ask. So by the end of this, I promise you'll have a crystal clear way to tell them all apart. All right, before we can even touch on the protocols themselves, we have to lock down the single most important concept in all of identity and access management. Seriously, this is it. It's the fundamental split between authentication and authorization. If you get this right, everything else just clicks into place. I love how simple this slide makes it. Think of it like this. Authentication, on the left, is the bouncer at a club checking your ID. Their only job is to answer one question. Are you who you claim to be? That's it. Authorization on the right is what happens after you're past the bouncer. It decides if you get to go into the general area or if you have the VIP pass for the private lounge. It answers the question, okay, you're in, so what are you actually allowed to do here? So let's just hammer this point home. Authentication always comes first. It's that initial gatekeeper, the first step, where you prove who you are with a password, a fingerprint, a face scan, you name it. And right on its heels comes authorization. See, once the system knows who you are, it then has to figure out what you can do. It looks at a set of rules to decide, can you read this file? Can you delete that record? Can you see the admin dashboard? So one proves identity, the other grants permissions. That distinction is everything.
Okay, with that foundation firmly in place, it's time to meet the key players. And we're not just going to list them out. No, we're going to put them into categories based on the job they actually perform. This is the secret to keeping them straight in your head when the exam pressure is on.
So let's actually start with the one that's a bit of an outlier, the one that's different from the rest. We're going to talk about a framework that isn't really concerned with proving who you are, but is all about giving permission for what you can do. And that framework is OAuth 2.0. Now, if there is one thing you burn into your brain for the exam, it's this. OAuth is for authorization, not authentication. The best analogy is a valet key. When an app asks to see your Google Photos, you use OAuth to give it a limited key that only works on your photos. You never ever give that app your main Google password. That's delegated access in a nutshell. Okay, so we've put OAuth in its authorization box. Now let's get to the real heavy hitters of authentication. These are the protocols that make things like single sign-on, or SSO, possible, letting you log in just one time to access a whole bunch of different services. First up is the modern one, OpenID Connect, or OIDC. The most important thing to get is that it's a clever identity layer built right on top of OAuth 2.0. It basically hijacks the OAuth flow and adds one crucial thing, an ID token that proves who you are. This token is in a format called a JWT. So anytime you've seen a login with Google or sign in with Facebook button, yep, you've used OIDC. And then we have its older, more corporate cousin, SAML. While OIDC is the new kid on the block using modern JSON, SAML is the seasoned veteran. It's been the backbone of enterprise SSO for ages. But instead of JSON, it uses old-school XML to bundle up your information into a package called a SAML assertion. If you're logging into your company's instance of Salesforce or Workday, you're almost definitely using SAML. Okay, let's totally switch gears for a second. Everything we've talked about so far has been about a live login event, right? But what if a program doesn't need to log you in? What if it just needs to look up your email address or find out what department you're in from some central database? Well, that's a totally different job that needs a totally different protocol. And that's where LDAP comes into the picture. The easiest way to think about LDAP is like a digital phone book for the company. It's a protocol for asking questions of a directory, like Microsoft's Active Directory. It's not for single sign-on sessions. It's for looking up static info about users and groups. It's the directory itself, not the login process. Okay, we have one last major protocol to cover, and this one is special. It's special because it was built from the ground up to work exclusively inside the trusted, secure walls of a private corporate network. And that's Kerberos.
Trust me, you've seen this in action. If you've ever logged into your Windows computer at the office and then, like magic, you could access printers and file servers without typing your password again, that was Kerberos. It's a ticket-based system that works with a central authority, which in the Windows world is usually Active Directory. Now, the key thing to remember for the exam is its main limitation. It's designed for the internal network, not for the Wild West of the public internet.
All right, we've met all the players. Now for the most important part, putting them to work. Your exam isn't just going to ask for definitions. It's going to throw scenarios at you and expect you to pick the right tool for the job. This is where we make it practical. And here it is. This table is basically your exam day cheat sheet. Just look at it. Does the scenario involve a mobile app needing limited access to your data? That screams OAuth 2.0. Is it a modern website using a login with Google button? That's OIDC. Is it two big companies setting up SSO between their web apps? Classic SAML. Someone logging into their Windows desktop inside the office? That's Kerberos all day long. And an application needing to check which groups a user belongs to in Active Directory. That's a job for LDAP. See? It makes perfect sense when you lay it out like this. This quote here just nails the real-world experience of SAML. You log in once, right, to your main company portal. That system then becomes your trusted identity provider, and it essentially vouches for you to all these other services, like Salesforce, saying, hey, this person's legit, let them in. You never even type your password into Salesforce directly. It's seamless. So let's just walk through that flow really quick. You try to go to Salesforce, that's the service provider. Salesforce sees you're not logged in, so it bounces you over to your company's login page, the identity provider. You type in your credentials there, the IDP checks them, creates that secure XML package, the SAML assertion, and sends it back to Salesforce. Salesforce trusts your IDP, opens the package, and boom, you're in. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's boil it all down to the absolute must-know, can't-forget facts for your CISSP exam. Think of this as the final rapid-fire review. Seriously, commit this slide to memory. OAuth 2.0 is for permissions. OIDC adds login on top of that for modern apps. SAML is the big boss of corporate web SSO, and it uses XML. Kerberos owns the internal office network for Windows, and LDAP is just the phone book for looking up user info. If you can keep these 5 points straight, you're going to be in fantastic shape for any scenario questions they throw at you. And I'll just leave you with this final question to think about. As we all move into a world with fewer passwords, a world with biometrics and hardware keys, how are these protocols going to adapt? Will the modern API-first design of OIDC and OAuth make them the clear winners? Or does SAML have such deep roots in the enterprise that it's not going anywhere? The world of digital identity never stands still, and understanding these fundamentals is your ticket to understanding what comes next. Good luck with your studies. You've got this.